everything in an hour, or an hour and 15 minutes usually, because there's a lot of questions. And I'm sure there's going to be a lot of questions now that I got the little Office 365 groups crossed out. But I'll let you guys know why I did that. So, going to get started. So this session is on SharePoint versus Microsoft Teams versus Office 365 groups, and which should I use when, okay? So I'm recording right now. The recording is not going to capture any faces, but it will capture voices. So if you don't want to be on the recording, don't say nothing. But if you got a question, like throw up a card or get your buddy to ask the question. And I will be answering questions as we move along. So who am I? My name is Nakia Carter. I work for Microsoft now. I am the worldwide modern workplace tech strategy lead. Can you tell I'm still new? Like I started in March, so it's like trying to remember my whole title sometimes, and then my boss added an extra word. So I was like, crap, now I gotta start all over again. I used to be a Microsoft partner. I worked for a partner most recently, but then before joining Microsoft, I used to run a Microsoft partnership company before I worked as a director for my previous employer. You can see some of my roles. I am a technical speaker that's been doing this for a while, as well as I've been a trainer for a number of years as well. I am a developer. I started off as a developer, but I'm one of those extroverted developers, so I can actually talk to people and explain stuff, which is kind of weird. But I'm not a magical, sparkly unicorn developer. You know, the one that can actually do SharePoint administration at the super high level, like creating servers and all. That's not me, okay? Developer, some design, and training. That's all I do, okay? But in my new role, I don't get to do any of that. But anyway, I get to help other people that do that to help our partners. How many of you are partners in the room or work for a partner? Oh, just a few? Come on, I need to tell my boss. I'm going to have to bleep that part out so he doesn't see that it's like, or hear me say just a few. Yeah, there are a lot of partners in the room. Because that's my job. Okay. So feel free to reach out to me. Again, you'll have the slides. So there's my email address, and I'll put all of this at the end to be able to see it. Tweet at me. If you take any pictures, please tweet them out. I'm still trying to get a really good picture for changing my profile. So before we begin, some housekeeping. Remember to thank the sponsors, guys, and the hosts. If you can, it's a lot of work to put these types of things together, and it's a lot of money to keep these things running, okay? Now, I know you guys paid too, so thank you as well for showing up, because I'm sure it wasn't I'm sure it was a pretty penny. It wasn't like cheap, but still. I want to encourage you all also to not forget your user groups. Now, I was from the DC area, so those user groups I have on this slide are from there. But there is a user group in this area. Yes, so make a note of that. Meetup, right?
Yeah, and Eventbrite.
On Meetup and Eventbrite, just do a search. You'll find it. Click on the link somewhere and join, okay? You want to keep your learning going all the time. The cloud is moving. You got to move with it. If you don't move with it, you become like the dinosaur. And everybody knows what happened to the dinosaur, right? They're not around no more. Same thing will happen to you. Also, I'm sorry if I scared you, but it's real. You know, the threat is real. Also, there are some free events through SPS Events. If you go to spsevents.org, there are free SharePoint Saturdays all over the world. SharePoint Fest, oh crap, I forgot to put the SPTechCon on here. Collab365.community is an online community. They also have online conferences. And the Microsoft Tech community, of course. Good places for you to get lots of information and keep up to speed with everything you need to know. All right, so if you have questions, ask me. I've been doing speaking for a long time. I also do a lot of training, so I'm used to getting interrupted with questions. Now, I might take a moment to finish my breath or my thoughts, but I would rather you ask the question as close to the moment as possible, because if I keep talking and you got a question, you're going to hear something else and you're going to forget what the heck you were trying to say. So it's very important for me to hear what it is that you want to ask as soon as possible. So feel free to interrupt. Got to give a disclaimer. I want you guys to note that it says, please don't hit me, okay? And the reason why I'm giving this disclaimer is because I'm working in the cloud here, people. The cloud moves. The cloud flows. The cloud is all around us. Okay, I'm getting a little bit into it. Is cloud technology is always being updated. I've literally put together training slides where buttons start appearing as I was taking screenshots. I stopped making training slides. That's just ridiculous. So sometimes it's hard for me to have slides that might be totally up to date, especially later, maybe 15 minutes later, these slides might not be totally insane. Also, while I'm presenting to you, there may be something like, oh, the button, where'd the button go? Oh, wait a minute, okay? Just give me a minute and hopefully I'll be able to find it. If not, I'll apologize profusely and try to get you the answer later, if need be. So now the moment we've all been waiting for. We're gonna talk about what SharePoint is, what Office 365 groups are, which teams, when should I use each, and how do I get to each. So basically, what is SharePoint? All of you work in SharePoint, right? Do we have any devs in the room? No devs? One dev. One dev? Aw, okay. I'm a dev too, yeah. Any admins? Oh, that's a lot of admins. Okay, you guys are definitely in the right spot though. Any just end users and you're just like, what the heck is going on? I just need to figure my life out right now. Or want to go back and be like, look, she said this, so you need to do this. Okay, well, all of you know what SharePoint is, so we'll keep it moving. Office 365 groups. It's exchange-based, meaning the groups live in exchange, versus what Teams is, which we'll talk about Teams in a minute. Now, it gives you these things, the email distribution group, because that's basically what it's based on. It's like a amplified or a souped-up distribution list, where it has more things like the ability to share files and group calendar and planner and OneNote. And as soon as you make one, it automatically has that stuff. But then you have the ability to add other things to it as well, called connectors. By default, any staff member can, or any member of your org can do this unless it's been turned off. I personally turned them off, not to be mean, but you know how people are when they're end users, right? Oh, what's that button? Click. Oh, I don't need that. Oh, what's that button? Click. Oh, I don't need that. 5,000 groups later, you're like, people. So sometimes you got to put a little bit of controls around it for, your user's sake. Now, the reason why I had put the cross mark through Office 365 groups is because groups now, the way Microsoft is thinking about them, the direction is kind of changing. Now, I know groups haven't been out that long, but remember, groups came out and then right on the heels of it, Teams came out, right? And I'm gonna explain Teams, but basically Teams does the same thing as groups almost. There's some differences, which we'll explain in a minute, but now the thinking is starting to be, groups is infrastructure, it's not an experience. An experience is a place that you go and you go do stuff. Like SharePoint, end users experience it. They go to it, they upload and download files, they go to lists, they do certain actions, it's an experience. Teams is an experience. I live in Teams basically all day. You go there, you have it open, you're chatting with people, you're joining meetings, you're doing a bunch of stuff. Groups is not really considered an experience anymore. So one of the things the suggestions for you to do now, do not create any new Office 365 groups. Now, I say that, and it's kind of funny that I'm saying that because I'll explain this part later, but some of you are already like, yeah, I know what you're talking about. Wow, this is hilarious. But don't create them like go to the new button for groups and create new groups, okay? And use Teams instead. And if at all possible, convert your groups to Teams, okay? I'm just saying. It's already hard to get to the groups. The groups are exchange-based. There's no button for it. There's no easy way to get to it. Most users are like, where the heck did groups go again? I forgot what the heck. I used to do that. I'm like, where did the group go? Oh, I got to go to Outlook. Then I got to look under this little thing. And then I got to click on that and see all my groups. And that's the way. It's not intuitive, you know? Going to Teams is intuitive. It has a button. Going to SharePoint is intuitive. It has a button. Office 365, no. Basically, the reason why most of you that knew what I was talking about was laughing when I said don't create any new groups is because a new group is created when you create any of these things. If you create a feed, a new group is created. If you create Teams, a group is created. If you create a group is created, of course. If you create a flag, a group is created. So forth and so on. You create a SharePoint modern site collection that's connected to an Office 365 group, of course, a group's created. Okay, so what I meant by don't create any new groups is don't create them by themselves as something that you plan on using for reals. Okay, just let that go. Okay. Now Teams is based on Skype for Business. Yes, Skype for Business. Skype for Business is going away, but kind of it's not really going away. It's just taking the Teams cover and being like, ta-da, I'm Teams now. You're like, sure you are. No, but they're improving the Teams, the Skype backbone, which was born out of Skype, because remember Skype for Business at first was born out of Link. Link kind of, it was cool, but it also kind of sucked. Just saying, okay? So they switched it from Link to Skype. Then Skype for Business was born. Now Teams is built on top of Skype for Business. Skype for Business Online is going away. Skype for Business on-prem is not going away, at least not yet. Now, there's no date set. There's a date set for online Skype for Business, but not if you have a server. If you have a server, you're good, at least until Microsoft decides to kill it. But it's not killed yet. It gives you those same things, even though it's based on Skype for Business technology. So it gives you the persistent chat feature and the online meeting capability, but it gives you a lot of the same things the groups give you. It gives you a place for a planner and OneNote and your files. And then you can add connectors just like you could do with Office 365 groups. So can you see how that kind of, it's like, who thought that was a good idea? And I'm recording this and I'm Microsoft. Okay, I haven't been Microsoft long enough to get rid of this partner side of me. So, yikes. Caruana kind of blessed this. You guys know Caruana Gatimu. She's like the Microsoft Teams goddess. She was all the Office 365 Teams groups goddess at first. Now she's Teams. She has blessed this, so I'm saying it for the record. That I was sanctioned to say that. Anyway, so we're not going to talk about groups, okay? How many of you have groups, though, that you're using just, he's like, it's okay. It'll be okay. I know it might take a minute for you to switch over, but if you can convince people, you two lady.
I don't speak on it one though. Use Office groups. Come on, go use Office groups. Like he mentioned probably 100 times in one session. After 2 years now, you come back and say,
oh yeah.
But next year probably somebody coming and saying,
that's Microsoft and stuff. That's Microsoft and some businesses. There's a lot of things that they say and it like sticks for a long time. But there are some things they're like, blah, blah, use it, yeah. And they're like, oh, that probably wasn't a good idea. So use it. And then they listen. And then they wait to see if anybody screams. But people aren't screaming. Groups is just too hard. to get to. Yes?
It mentioned conversion from groups to teams. Are you sure that?
I can. Yep. So I'm going to stick to Teams and SharePoint. Mostly the Teams, though. Okay? Because most of you know what SharePoint is anyway. So again, Teams is good for making quick project sites, just like Office 365 Groups was. So Teams basically can do the same thing. It's just based in a different area. At first, it used to only be where you could add internal team members. And that's one of the reasons why Office 365 Groups didn't get killed right away, because you didn't have a way to add external people when you needed to work with them, like your partners or your vendors. You had no way to do that in Teams. But now there's a way, so like I said, it will go under the covers. So you can have those conversations in files like Groups, except for the conversations are persistent on a chat board that is connected into the Skype for Business backend, okay? Whereas Office 365 Groups is connected to a board that looks like a chat board, but really isn't, and it's Exchange-based. You also have the ability to add pre-fed widgets, connectors, and tabs for SharePoint. Now, whoops. Okay, SharePoint is good for making everything, okay? Love SharePoint. Way more customizable. Although Teams is starting to get there where you can make a lot of different apps. You can actually bring SharePoint directly into Teams, so people never have to use SharePoint. They could just stay in Teams and just live their lives. But for those of us that have to create things like that, you would mostly create them in SharePoint and maybe bring them to Teams. Because Teams can't do everything. It's getting there, but it can't do everything. So you can make those project sites, but you can also do all of these things. Okay. Now workflow is there, but actually now you can do that with Flow inside of Teams. So that one's a little bit dated. All right, so how do I get to stuff? Instead of me like going to these two slides, because those two slides just show you what the button is and what it looks like, I'm just gonna go ahead and get out of here. Escape. And then I'm going to bring this over here. Wow, now that is huge. Oh, my screen is so teeny. Is that too big for you guys? Okay, that's good? Okay. All right. So when you go to Office 365 and you log in, you most of the time get to this home page, unless you have changed your home page to something else. Does everybody know how to change your home page? Anybody want to know? Okay, because some people are like, I don't know if I want to know. Maybe that's too much information. Took that away?
Yeah, now it always defaults to that. You can't make your own home page if you want.
Did they?
Yeah, it made me very sad.
No.
Apparently I was like the only person who noticed.
Yeah, because I normally set, oh no. That makes me sad too. They used to have a drop down on the settings where you could say, I want to start in SharePoint, or I want to start in Outlook. Dang it. Okay, well, I gotta move on before I get teary. All right, so apparently you don't have that option anymore. Sorry, folks. But this home page is useful like when you first get in, because there's the apps that you can get to. Like I said, there is a SharePoint button and there's a Teams button. When you leave the home, then the home page is kind of like irrelevant because you left it. You still have the waffle where you have your apps up here, so you can get to them here too. Okay, but notice again, no Office 365 Groups button. Now when you go to SharePoint, the first thing you get to is the SharePoint homepage. On the SharePoint homepage, you can, where did my side thing go? I guess it went away because it's a little, there we go. It went away because now the screen's all big and now it's trying to mash everything up. It's responsive. Yeah. Remember when SharePoint wasn't responsive?
Yeah.
Yeah. So if you ever see the hamburger menu, which is what that thing is called by end users, it's the hamburger menu. Just like the other one is the waffle because it has the 9 squares. If you ever see the hamburger menu, it just means your screen got condensed, and all you gotta do is click on that to open up the side panel and see what was over there. Okay, you get to see any sites that you're following and the recent sites. You guys know how to get to the following sites, right? When you go to a site, you just click the little star in the upper right-hand corner, and it'll appear here. Because some people are like, I've made a site, or I have a site that I always go to, but for some reason I can't ever find it. Just do that, it'll save you some time and some headache in your life. Now, I'm not gonna really get into SharePoint all that much, because everybody knows what SharePoint does, right? Everybody's good with SharePoint, right? Anybody need any additional help with SharePoint while we're here? Don't be shy. If you need it, I'm here for you. Okay. We can also talk about it tomorrow if any of you really need help and you're just like, I don't want to talk about it in front of everybody. It's cool. Teams. Whoops, that's not the right one. Teams, when you click on the button, you get to this page. On this page, it says you could use the Windows app, which I'm not going to use because I'm already signed into my company and I don't want to flip over, okay? So I'm going to use the web app, which you could use the web app instead. Some of you may have noticed that it's not easy when you have multiple tenants and teams to be able to switch back and forth if you have different usernames. Microsoft is working on that, but if you had been added to another tenant as a guest, then that switching works well, okay? If you have the opposite thing where you've been added as your own account in that tenant, you guys know what a tenant is, right? The Office 365 subscription that another company or your company has. That thing is called a tenant, okay? If somebody created an account for you, then you're not a guest. You're an actual user in their tenant. So that's the difference. If you have multiple clients that you're working for and they have added you as your own user in their tenant, then you probably want to open up the web app so that you can have your full web app for yourself, for your company, but then you can open up multiple clients in private and not in private. There's also, I'm just gonna give a little plug to Edge Chromium. It's still in preview, but it does that same thing that Google Chrome does, where you can have multiple accounts. So you could switch between things easier in the same browser, thank God. But now I don't need it as much because now I'm at Microsoft, so yay. But yay for you guys at least.
You also use multiple desktops in this app. You can open up different desktops, different
Oh, okay.
Just
Just a thought. I like thoughts. Thoughts are good. All right, when you get into the Microsoft Teams application, whether it's on your desktop or via the browser, it looks exactly the same. Okay, so everything I'm showing you is in the desktop version. All right, so don't worry that you're missing out. You still have this top bar up here, which still gives you some abilities to get around. So the waffle is still there. And you have your little personal persona. But your persona has kind of changed. So here it's like options for Teams. It's not like options that you would get if you were in SharePoint, which might be, well, actually it's not really different than what you would get in Office 365. But anywhere else, except for maybe Dynamics and Power BI, the menu here would be the same as Office 365, but we're in Teams, so the menu's different. You have the ability to change what your status is here, or your presence. You have your settings. Settings right here. You have your status message right there. You have the ability to download the app, and you can sign out. Now, if you sign out, it's going to kick you out of the whole Office 365 tenant. So that sign out is not just connected to Teams, okay? It's connected to your full tenant. You open up another browser and you'll be signed out, okay? Or another window, another tab, I'm sorry, you'll be signed out. On the left nav, there are things like activity, which shows you a feed of all the activity that was going on that you're connected to. And what I mean by you're connected to, either you were in that team, invited somehow, so you'd see the activity going on, or somebody mentioned you. So they said at Nikia Carter, and then I would see it here. Chat is where you would go to chat, and I would go to chat if I had people, but this is a developer tenant, and I only got like one person in there, and they're not online anyway. So you would see any recent chats, you would see contacts here. Now you can add contacts. Wait a minute, down here. You can add a new contact group, which would add one of these things, but you can add new, where the heck did they put that button? Didn't I say that was gonna happen? Didn't I say it? I said it, at least. Okay, here you go. They put it here. It used to be like a little button in the upper corner next to here. It's not there anymore. So you go here and you can add contacts to the group. They could be internal contacts or they could be external contacts. Now before you couldn't do that, you couldn't add any external people. Now you can actually add the contact. And that's because depending on your license, you may have the ability to just call from Teams, just a number, from your Teams to somebody's phone, okay? So that's what that would be for, but also just for information for you. And the Teams part, this is where most of the action is. So any team that you were invited to, whether you were invited as a member or an owner can add people to the team, remove people, they can even remove other owners. Members, you just have the ability to just collaborate with everybody. You can't do any administrative stuff, you can't add any connectors, things like that, okay? You can just participate. When a team is first created, it has conversations, has files, and it has this stupid wiki thing. Is anybody as pissed with this wiki thing as I am? Okay. At first you couldn't remove it. Now you have the ability to remove the stupid thing. And I keep saying the stupid thing just because it's so confusing, it's not easy to use. I just normally get rid of it. And I add, so here comes the connector part. Click on the plus. You can add as a tab a connector to any of these things. Now this list keeps growing because at first groups was let me get rid of this. You can turn on notifications when you first start. It normally asks you, do you want to turn on notifications? And you get the little pop-ups like you get from YouTube or from Facebook if you guys do that. I'm going to dismiss though, I don't need all that. So you get the ability to use a connector to create a tab to do all these sorts of things. And it will grab whatever that data is, like say for example, you're using, one of the ones that people use a lot is, where's Twitter? Well, Twitter is on here somewhere.
Search.
Oh, right. Forgot about the search button. Did they take away Twitter? No. Maybe it's under more apps.
It was in there the other day.
I'm about to say, I could have swore it was just there. Okay, all right, so it wasn't in the little tab.
You have to make sure that have the people.
I'm sorry, say that again. Gotta make sure.
How do we have Twitter to clicking the link, view more.
View more, oh, yeah. So when I click the view more apps, then it shows the page with the full stuff, and now my heart can start beating again. That scared the crap out of me. What it basically is doing is it's taking you to the store that's right there, okay? At the bottom. Actually, let me point to it with my mouse because I'm recording this, so you won't be able to see me point to it in my recording. So it takes you to the store. Now there's a bunch of stuff here. Like if you've ever explored like all the stuff that's here. Anybody a government employee? You guys know Jira? Jira's in here. I was like, what? Jira for reals? So you can use all of that stuff. Make it as a tab. One of the most cool things that I've done recently, at least because my team, they're all Microsoft people, right? but they don't know Teams as fully as I do. So I have a community that I work with, that I actually lead. That's part of my job. And in the community, we have a Teams team. And there is a tab that I always add, one for the community call deck that we just had, so it gets to stay there all month until the next community call. And I also do the recording. You know, if you record in Teams, it goes to Stream, right? Stream is pretty cool. Remember Office 365 video? So Office 365 groups is kind of going to go the way Office 365 video went. Eventually they're going to stop talking about it, and it's just going to be a thing that you never see again. But Stream is really cool because it has a lot of different cool widgets in it. One, once it saves it, it'll save it to Stream. Your organization can actually go back and do like a keyword search and find your video. When they get in the video, they can actually do keyword searches in the video because it does closed captioning automatically. And you can search to say, okay, in this meeting, was I mentioned? Because I wasn't there. Who might have volunteered me while I wasn't there to do something, but then never tells me that I'm responsible for that task? I mean, that never happens, right? So you can go back to the meeting, you can actually search for your name or some other topic and find at the points where your name or whatever the keyword is mentioned, and get to that point in the video. So that is really awesome. So I add the community call video directly as a Teams tab using Stream right there. All I have to do is put the URL in there and it like pops up. It looks like YouTube. You know how the YouTube videos are on the page? It looks like that with the little play button in the middle. It's really cute. Like it a lot. Any questions so far? All right. Moving on. Calendar. In the calendar, this is where all your meetings would be. Your little meeting button used to be over here, and now it's up here. There used to be like a little side view of your meetings, but this new view of the meeting is starting to roll out. So your calendar will probably look different at some point if it doesn't look like this. Don't panic. It's just a way for you to be able to see your week.
That's the beauty with Office 365, right? Every day when you pray, you should say like, I don't want any more surprise while I'm presenting.
I wish I could say,
Because there is no
just leave it alone while I'm presenting.
There is no notification.
No.
Nothing.
There's notification, but there's notification to people who are admins. So your people who are admins, if they get those emails from that Office 365 Admin Center, hopefully we'll share that with you. But you know, as an admin, most of the time they don't have time. They're always busy.
Every change has not been communicated that way.
Yeah, that's what I mean. As part of your morning prayer, add this on sleep moving in the page, No more surprise during my presentation.
That is true. Not everything is communicated, but a lot of things. Microsoft has gotten a whole heck of a lot better at communicating stuff to people so that they know. But if you're not an admin, you're kind of not going to get the email, so that kind of sucks. Where you could go is to can't remember if it's roadmap.microsoft.com or roadmap.office.com. Just search for Office 365 Roadmap or Teams 365 Roadmap. It'll take you to a place where you can actually see some of the stuff, like what's in progress right now, what's on the roadmap for happening at some point, because sometimes they don't even say what point. They're just like, soon. What's soon? Soon.
Could be tomorrow.
Yeah, it could be tomorrow. They can change it real quick, and then but still, it's better than what we had, right? Just saying. Trying, okay? Well, we're trying, because I'm Microsoft now, so we're trying. This new meeting, sometimes you might want to create one of those things that's called the live meeting, right? Has anybody created one of those Teams live meetings yet? You know what the live meetings are? That's my special lady over there. She knows how to do stuff. Do you guys know what the live meetings are? So you know in a regular meeting, you can add up to and have up to 250 attendees, right? Sometimes you might be, for your organization, you might be one of those organizations that have the cool new product and you want to tell all of your customers or give them the ability to join you on a webinar where they can see what's going down. Or maybe you're a nonprofit, a large nonprofit that does like meetings with all of your volunteers and all your vendors, and there are like 2,000 of them. You can't stick them all into one meeting, right? If you use live meeting though, which you click on that little create meeting button, you go to this drop down, there's live meeting event. So I'm going to skip over this regular meeting because everybody knows what the regular meeting does, right? And stuff, right? Everybody good with that? Okay, I'm going to show you what the live meeting does. So the live meeting, you can actually put your title, location, blah, blah, blah. You can invite people to be a presenter with you. You can actually, when you create it, you're the producer by default, which means you're the one that's going to be responsible for like making sure people can switch easy, if they need some help, stuff that producers do when it comes time to create things that other people are going to see. You can add people as presenters, so they don't get all of the features that you would get as a producer to be able to do more of the technical help. They just can come in and present. Everybody else ends up being an attendee. So I can add, let's see, I do have one user, so let me just add him to this. I can make him a presenter, or I can make him a producer on the screen. Now the attendees part is coming up because some people are like, well, how do I add attendees? I don't see the option. Where's the option? It's coming. Let me just add a little title to this, just so it can stop crying at me. You hit the next. The next gives you the options for what kind of permissions do you want to have for people to get to this live event. Do you want it org-wide? Do you want just certain groups of people in your org? Or do you want to make it public? You make it public, you can take that event link and then you can send it to people, okay? How do you want to produce it? So Teams will produce via the webcams and the screens. Now there's probably going to be some more options here at some point, but right now this is all the option you get. Let's go down. So how when Teams does it, oh wait a minute, no, it's not the only option you get. I misspoke, or I spoke too soon. The other one is the using the app, but it's still Teams. It's still Teams. So under the options for Teams, which would be the Teams on your desktop or through the web app, do you want to record? Make it available for the attendees. Of course, the recording is available for the producers and presenters because usually that's what you want to do anyway. Captions. Now, this is a different tenant, so some of these things are in preview, so I can't do anything with it because I'm in a dev tenant, so not everything is available to me right now. May be available to you, maybe grayed out. If it's grayed out, it's coming. Okay? Captions. You can put in captions up to 7 languages. So one of the languages, of course, is English by default. But you can choose like Cantonese, Mandarin, there's like 4 different Chinese you can choose, Japanese, you can choose Hindu, Spanish, lots of different languages. I usually suggest if you're doing a live meeting and your audience is like one of those meetings that's, audiences that's very diverse, add the captions for these people so that later, or at least while you're talking to, they see they can turn on the captions and they'll see the captions in their own language. It just makes life easier for the people that you're trying to give info to. Okay, so if you got people in your audience you know are going to be speaking, more than likely just put Spanish in there because a lot of people speak in Spanish. Put Spanish in there. If you got more people and you know what their nationality is and the language they may be speaking, put it in there. It's not going to hurt anything. Okay, yes?
Like external users?
Can you invite external users to live meetings? Yes, if you make it public. So remember that button up here. You got to make it public. Q&A. That just adds a little Q&A side window. Because in live meetings, people can't say anything except for the producer and the presenters. Attendees can't say anything. They can't turn the mic on. They're automatically muted. They stay muted. You can't even unmute them for them. Okay? So you got to give them some kind of way to be able to say something, especially if they got questions. So you would normally turn that on. Yes?
That was one thing in our organization that we wanted an answer to, is there going to be at some point the ability for us to unmute?
Is there going to be the ability at some point to unmute? I have no idea. If you really want to know, I'll get your information or you get mine, and I'll have to ask the team. Or you can check the roadmap. I don't know if anybody put on the roadmap. Oh, that's what I should say too. You guys have seen the little feedback button at the bottom, or sometimes a little smiley face that isn't the emoji smiley face one, because I always click on it. I'm like, oh crap, that's not the right one. I wanted emojis. I didn't want this. It takes you to a kind of jazzed up looking version, but basically behind it is user voice. You guys know what user voice is, right? It's Microsoft's way of collecting a bunch of feedback from a bunch of different people. Now, when you use the feedback button, make sure that you fully explain yourself, okay? What do you want? Why do you want it? What would it be good for? Explain like the steps of what it would do, just what it would do. You don't have to get techie jargon into it. Just what do you want this thing to do? If something's dumb, this thing is dumb. This is why. This is what happened when I thought it was dumb. Give them as much information as possible, because if you don't, they're just going to throw your feedback out. The other magic thing to know is you need 50 people to vote on it. If you don't have 50 people to vote on it, Microsoft is just like, I guess it's not that important. And they'll just ignore it, okay? Sometimes they look through them and they're like, that's really a good idea. Maybe we should promote it anyway. But most of the time, they won't even look at it unless there's 50 votes, okay? And then when they look, make sure there's enough information so they know what you're talking about. Yes?
For the external users, they still require
For external users, do they still require a Microsoft account? Actually, I don't think so. I think the link, I think the link is just like, remember when you used to send a Skype for Business link? Or you could send a Teams link to anybody and they could join the meeting? It's the same thing. It's just going to authenticate. Well,
They use the web browser now because it's based on Chromium.
Mm-hmm.
It works now without having to create the Windows Live account. It used to be that you had to create a Windows Live account.
Okay.
Microsoft Live account can't work.
Yeah, I'm about to say, well,
Now they
I'm having,
can just click it.
yeah, I'm having flashbacks to the old days when it did make you used to have to create a live account. So I had to kind of think. Thanks, guys, for setting me straight there. So the answer is they can just click the link. They don't need a Microsoft account, just like when you click a WebEx link, you don't need a WebEx account.
You can send it to Gmail and any account you can send it. Mm-hmm. The only one thing is that you should be ready to go on to web. If not, that it's always good to download the app. Teams app.
Yeah, it's always good to download the app ahead of time because it will make them download the app unless they choose the web option, which a lot of them just fly straight past that option because they don't even, one's a button that's all shiny, the other one's like a little link underneath. Most people fly past that and then they're like upset with you.
You still have to obey your tenant restrictions, right? If you block certain like certain email address, certain domains, would that have any impact on this? Because it's still a subset of your tenant.
No, because it creates a link and you can just email it out from outside of your tenant. But if you're emailing it inside of your tenant, then you had blocked email domains, then yeah, you would be blocked.
It will work if I stop sharing, stop sharing, if I block external sharing. See what I'm saying? Like the share on the tenant, if I block.
If you block external sharing
If I
on
say
the
one
tenant,
to the organization, would that have any impact on the team?
I don't know. I'm thinking it should. Just because I'm thinking it should doesn't mean it will.
I'm thinking back in my mind, it should govern the parent, which is the tenant. It has to follow your tenant, because that should again block everything.
Yeah, so blocking sharing at the tenant level should, but the reason why I say should, not that it does, was one, because I haven't tested it.
That's
And-
more permissive than, like, I think SharePoint obeys it, OneDrive obeys it, then I think Teams also should go
It should.
hand in hand.
But the reason why I say that is because there is a issue with another thing where if you set the DLP rule at the tenant level, and and I'm not gonna tell you guys where because I'm recording it, I don't wanna like share the secret with the world. There is a certain thing where right now that's not working, so people could get around. So the reason why I say it should, because it should work like that. Hopefully it does. But I haven't tested it, so I can't tell you certainly, but I'm pretty certain. If you block sharing at the tenant level, it should block being able to share whatever the blocking of sharing is doing, like blocking external users. Okay. If you have, your organization has a certain contact URL that during the meeting, instead of them going to this generic one, you can set your own so that people during the meeting, if they need help, they click on the URL for support, they go to yours, not the generic one. And then you can schedule it. And then once you schedule it, Jarek is gonna be like, what? What's going on? Then you can add, copy the link for the attendees. Now, the link for the attendees, normally I would put it in like another Teams meeting. It's kind of weird, but the reason why, not another Teams meeting, an email invite, sorry. It's weird because you would think that you would just be able to add attendees here somewhere and it would just send it out for you. It doesn't. You gotta use the link. Now everybody that's a presenter or a producer, they get the automatic invite. But those people who you wanna have as attendees, they don't get it. So you gotta send it to them somehow, okay? When you send it to them, remember what permissions you set up. If you made it public, it can go out to anybody. If you made it only within your organization, then that means you can send the link to anybody, but they're not getting in unless they have permission through your organization. If you set it to certain groups, then they'll only do certain groups. Is everybody good with that? Okay. The link still has permissions connected to it. Okay, yeah. Yes.
If you do something like that, org-wide team site, you still have to send the link out to everybody?
Yeah, because only the presenters and the organizers get it. It's just that anybody, once you send the invite to your org-wide, or you post it, or you have an org-wide Teams team, and you post it in the Teams team, then everybody will get it. And if they have notifications turned on, then they'll get the email about it. But it won't be added as an invite to their calendar. That's the problem.
So, I guess what I'm asking, if you do a live event, and let's say you do it in an org-wide team, doesn't that meeting automatically get posted in the org-wide?
If you create the link as a permission to be org-wide, and you have an org-wide team, does it automatically get added to the org-wide team? I do not know.
Okay. You know, like if you're in a regular team and you add it to a channel, it automatically gets posted.
Yeah, I don't know. I'd have to attest that. Actually, don't know.
But you didn't select a team to associate to the live event.
No, I didn't.
So it wouldn't know how to associate.
Yeah, I didn't. Yeah, that's right. I didn't select the channel.
If you did a regular meeting, that option's available, but in the live event, there's no option to select to associate to a particular team.
Channel.
But it would go to stream and be available afterwards.
Yeah, it goes to stream. And then also afterwards, when you finish with the meeting, you can go back to the meeting itself. And this section right here where it says live event resources, you'll also have links to certain things. Like this transcripts in each of the languages, you'll be able to download that if you want. So you could actually send that out later if you'd like. The link to the stream would also be there as well. All right, let me close this. Hopefully he doesn't join the meeting because I did not tell him I was going to do that. I'm like, what's this all about? Okay. Calendar. So that's done. Files.
I got a quick question.
Under, yes.
So in groups, you have a group calendar, right? And now, so groups are obsolete at this point, right? Essentially what we're saying. How, you used to be able to have a groups app where you could access the group calendar on your mobile device. Now, groups app is no longer available. They've discontinued it.
Like I said, it's kind of like quietly going away.
Right? Just like you said. But now there's no way for me to access my group calendar. Unless I'm on the internet. I can't access it through Teams, I can't access it through Exchange, unless I'm on my computer itself.
You can access it through Teams, it's a little gloomy.
Okay, yeah, I don't have any groups, so I can't help you there, because as soon as Teams came out and they gave the option to convert, I just started converting
If
mine.
you teamify the group, or if you, I mean, it's, because it's all, like, it's gonna have a SharePoint site.
Yep.
Any group has a SharePoint site.
That's an
You
idea.
can go to SharePoint, you can create a page, there is a group calendar.
Yeah, so
I mean, yeah, that's why I said include.
Yeah, so if
there's a
you,
whole back way around,
Yeah.
like, but in the end, it's still like ends up in your Outlook. You know, essentially they screwed up big time when they decided to get rid of the group set.
yeah, sorry.
It's okay. It's not your fault. You've only done it once.
Yeah, so the question was, just for the recording, the groups, when you create them, now that there's no Office 365 Groups app, you're kind of stuck without being able to see your calendar and your meetings that were in Office 365 Groups easily. I think teamifying the group would help, but then it will end up being in Teams. But it's better than nothing.
So, but you see in Teams, you still can't see it.
What?
Well, if you created a page
Yep.
with like a SharePoint page that you have, then you pull that SharePoint page into Teams. So then you would be able to see it.
I have to test that
So
because
if you have it on your Teams app on your mobile phone, there's no way to access it. You can click on a page, and then the page is going to jump you out into the SharePoint app, and it's like it literally bounces you between apps.
I'm
on
gonna
the phone.
have to test that because that doesn't make any sense. It should, once you teamify it, you should be able to see your calendar through Teams, the Teams app. I'm gonna have to check on that because that's, if so, I'm gonna have to also put in a thing.
Talk to your Teams team.
Yeah. And if you
User voice stuff have more clout than our user.
no, well, only because I know people and I can actually go directly to the source. But I would say put it out on user voice. I'm gonna show you how to teamify your groups. So once you test to make sure that's still not a thing, put it out on user voice, and then maybe tweet it with SPTechCon, and then hopefully all of us will come and vote for it so he can get the 50 votes so we can get this fixed if it's still an issue. Yes, ma'am. Oh, no, I did not. It's 2,000? I want to say 2,000. Yeah, you can record it. You can record it just like you can record Can you track how many people attended? I believe there is, yes, because I had to do that for one of my other meetings. There's in that Teams resources, when you open it back up and you go to the Teams resources, there ends up being an attendee list. And you can export it, it comes out into a Excel spreadsheet. Any other questions? Okay. Under files, this is where you go to see like all of your files that were recently done in Teams, or maybe not even recently done in Teams. You might have been somewhere else. It's just the recent files that you have been working on, okay? All of Office 365 is all interconnected together, including Office. As long as you're using Office that's connected to Office 365, Teams will also be able to see it, okay, and show your recent files. Now, most people don't go here because you go to your files in your actual team, but it's there for you. You can actually add stuff from your cloud storage from OneDrive, and you can add extra cloud storage. So if you wanted to do Dropbox, if you're on Dropbox, please get off of Dropbox. So many security holes, okay? but you can add it to your teams. Whenever you see 3 dots, that means it's a more menu. That means there's just stuff here that you click on it, and there's more stuff here for you to see. In this case, it's the apps. Why is the wiki app there?
That's your personal wiki.
It's your personal wiki. Who wants a personal? Okay, I'm not gonna digress. I'm gonna keep moving forward because I will get into a rant fest, and we only have
5 minutes.
5 minutes.
5 minutes. Oh, okay. If you need to get the app, the button's right here. The store will help you get to all of the apps, and there, of course, is the help button right there. Now I'm gonna go to the team. Oh, wait a minute. I gotta explain the search. This search actually helps you to search lists of commands. It helps you search people, and it helps you to search like all of your conversations that you've been having in Teams. That way, sometimes you're just like, what? I know somebody was talking about this thing, but I can't remember who was talking about this thing. And I know they typed it out, so let me put the keyword in there, and it'll actually show you that conversation about that thing. So it can be pretty helpful when you just couldn't remember who the heck was saying what. Or you're trying to find all the conversations from somebody, and their conversation got lost under the chat, because you could have billions of them up there after you've talked to so many people, but you're trying to find a certain person's chat, just go there and you find the chat. Somebody saying something? No? Okay. All right, going back to the teams real quick. Under files, under files, you got the new, you got your upload. Your upload can come from OneDrive, or it could come from your desktop, or you can add more cloud storage there, so it could come from there then once you add that connector. You could open Teams team in SharePoint. So if you've ever tried to find the SharePoint, you're like, where's the back end? How do I get the SharePoint that belongs to this team so I can go do other things? You click on that link, and that'll take you directly into the document library where all the files are, but then you can navigate out from there to SharePoint. Special note here, the document library that is the default library for that SharePoint site that's created, please don't delete it. Don't mess with the folders either. Now, I hate folders. Folders. I'm saying that with teeth, because I really hate them. But there's no way to add metadata here yet. So you gotta live with folders, okay? Whenever you create a channel though, in your team, so I have a team right here. I can go over here to this little doodad right here. I can manage my team, which means I can like kick people out of the group, add people to the group, demote them or promote them from member to owner. I also have the ability to add a channel here. When you add a channel, it adds a top level folder in that document library. If you delete or rename that top level folder, hell is going to break loose. I'm just warning you, okay? It gets confused. It's like, I don't know. The link breaks, and then you're messed up. And sometimes that's messed up because you might have a team that you're like, oh, I want to change the name of this team, or I want to change the name of the channel. You change the name of the channel in Teams, and you go back into SharePoint, and it's still the old name, and you're like, later you're probably like, what? Because you forgot what the original name was, right? You just got to click it in each folder and try to figure out, match them up, have them screen by screen so you can match up and see which one is the actual folder. But if you rename it in SharePoint, you're going to break the link, so don't do it. Resist the urge, okay? You can also leave a team through here. So as a member, you can leave a team. Now, if you're the owner, don't leave your own team, okay? I'm just saying. You can edit the team settings right here. I don't even think you can, but if you could, don't do it.
You have to make someone else an owner first.
Yeah, probably.
What happens if you want to leave the team?
If you're the owner, make somebody else an owner, like she said. Don't just, If you can leave the team, just don't try it, because I'm telling you, later you're gonna be like, what the heck did I just do? And now you got all these orphan, it won't let you? Okay, that's good. Because the link is here for me to click on it, but it's like, I own the team, I'm the only owner. Why is this link here for me to actually click? You can edit the team settings, and you can get a link to the team. One of the things that sometimes people need to do is like email the channel. So if you go to the channels dots here, there's the get the email address right there. There's also the connectors option right there, and turning on and off your notifications. You can also go, once you go to the channel, because you can't just go straight to the team, they'll just take you to the members page. When you go into the channel, you also get the same options here. So you got those options there and those options there. Now, I told you guys I would show you, and I know I'm out of time. Yeah, I'm out of time. If you can hang out a little, because I got like some slides that's got some good things to know, but I'm going to show you real quick about how you can create a team by clicking on the Join or Create Team. You can create one from scratch, or you can create one from your Office 365 group. So this is how you teamify your groups, okay? Click on that. And if you have any groups, then they'll show up here, okay? And then you can teamify them. All right, so real quick, let me go back to these slides. Where's my mouse?
There is no way to get back the document library if somebody deleted accidentally.
If somebody deletes the default documents library, it should go to the recycle bin, but if it like dies, I don't do it, so I never try, okay? But I'm thinking you can just restore it. Now that would be something I would have to test, like if you actually deleted it with the link break and then you're screwed. Or would it reinstate itself once you reinstated the document library? I just know bad things happen, so I've never done it. That would be something I'd have to test. All right, a few things you should know. When you create an Office 365 group, there is a SharePoint site collection created. When you create a team, a group is created and a site collection is created. It's for a reason. I think the Office 365 groups are just going to become a security layer where, you know, with those Office 365 groups, they stay under the groups in the admin center. If you don't know this, you can use an Office 365 group as a security group in anything in Office 365. So you can use it as a security group in SharePoint, and you can assign custom permissions to it. You can use it as a flow administrator. Like, have you ever tried to set a group for your administrators to flow so it's not just you? So if you leave, everybody else isn't screwed and not able to make changes to that flow. You can add additional people as owners to that flow, but you make a security group, a mail-enabled security group, or an Office 365 security group. Now, I always say make it mail-enabled or the Office 365 group. That way there's an email connected to it, because somebody sometime is going to need to email those people at some point. Just trust me. It always happens that way. Let me see. Oh, I can scratch that out. Oh, I'm going to have to go through and make sure all of these things are still a thing now, because I just saw one that's not a thing anymore. Talk about channels. Let's see, when you delete an Office 365 group from Exchange, I wouldn't do it, but you can delete it, and then you kind of like got stuff just like, hi, I'm broke, okay? But sometimes when you delete like the team, the group is still there, and you might want to delete the group, you have to go to Exchange and delete it, all right? And then sometimes it just takes a while, so you'll have to wait. If you want it to leave, it might take like 24 hours or something like that for it to leave.
So is the change to Office 365 groups more of a marketing thing, or is there technological?
The change to Office 365 groups is more of a marketing thing, as in thou shalt not say anything about it for the most part. But I think technically, what's going to happen is just the files part, the calendar part, all the extra widgets, that part is going to go. That part's going to go, but there'll still be just groups there with an email address connected to it. So effectively, an email-enabled security group. Now that's a Nikki. I think that's going to happen. Yeah. Okay, but that's not a Microsoft, that's what's gonna happen yet. That's just my theory, and my theory seems to become true. You're welcome, guys. I know some of you gotta roll, but I'm gonna continue because I'm still recording, so you guys can get the goodness later, okay? Things don't necessarily flow between groups and your team. So if you were to make a file into your groups files, it doesn't show up in Teams files. But if you put a file in SharePoint, it shows up in Teams and in groups. Weird, but like. Conversations also don't show up between groups and Teams because remember, one's Exchange and one's Skype for Business based. So don't expect somebody to put something on the group's conversations board and it shows up in Teams,
Do you think
or vice
we'll
versa.
get rid of that eventually? Because
Again,
if we're getting rid of groups, kind of, then what's the point of this email thing? Because they want everybody to use Teams, it's more conversations in Teams, so why?
Yeah,
conversations?
I think again they're going to be, again, this is me,
Yeah.
my theory. I think once they get rid of all those little widgets, they're still not going to get rid of the email distribution because it'll be like a Office 365 security group that's email enabled.
But maybe stop putting conversations on the SharePoint.
Yeah, I think that part.
Conversations, because it encourages people to use.
Yeah, I think
and
that
then-
part will. I think that part will disappear. Let me see. There's a bunch of other stuff on here, so I'm gonna have to update it and make sure I read it. Which time? But anyway, when you use Power Apps and you want to embed a Power App into your team, it has to be Canvas or mobile. Excuse me. It can't be a SharePoint customized form. The web part just doesn't work. It's like why? So you have to make it a Canvas or mobile Power App, which I'll talk about Power Apps in a little bit. Again, more good is here. Members limited to 5,000, 2,050 people in GCC High or in GCC. Let me see what else. Oh, my recommendation at the bottom. Stop making Office 365 groups and teamify your ones that are already created. So, sorry that I ran over, guys. I knew that was coming. There's the roadmap link, actually, that I was talking about. Any final questions? Yes.
I have two Teams questions that you may not be able to answer, but I can ask them. Do you know when Read Receipts is supposed to actually launch? Because it's been listed forever. They've talked about it for many months now. Like it's coming soon.
Yeah, I don't know when Read Receipts.
I keep checking every day, and
Yeah.
it's not there.
Yeah, I don't know when Read Receipts are
Okay.
gonna happen.
And then the same thing with the reply versus new conversation. They promised, like that was a user voice thing that got really popular. They said we're working on it. They even did a little user poll for that, so we could give more feedback, and
Yeah, I
still
don't.
shows up the same way.
I don't know when the reply versus
Those are
new
my two
either.
Teams questions.
Yeah. So feel free to reach out to me. Maybe I'll track it down with the Teams team.
Thank you.
All right, and I actually gotta go too because I'm got another one in 7 minutes. Oh, there's references also in here. Lots of references. All right. Thanks, guys.